In Ois Hey, the Rebbe starts the explanation by pointing out that there are three ways to understand why we put the Shel Yad before the Shel Rosh. Whether it's a mitzvah in the Shel Rosh, is it a mitzvah on the person that you put on first the Yad and the Rosh? Or is it actually part of the mitzvahs of Tefillin that this order needs to take place? And the Rebbe is going to say, based on these different approaches, we have the different psukim, and they make also a difference lemaisa, lahalocha. And that's why we understand the Gemaras, why we need both parts in the Gemara, why we need the Mechilta, what the Sifri adds, everything is going to fall into place. Hey, Rabbi Yeruba said the explanation of this. Das was Tefillin shel Yad darf men magdim sein, far hanochas Tefillin shel Rosh. This that we need to first put on the Tefillin of Yad before you do the Tefillin shel Rosh. Afal pi ze seine zwei mitzvahs. The mitzvahs Yad and shel Rosh are two mitzvahs. Is einem akvizu. They don't hold back one another. If he only has a shel Yad and he only has a shel Rosh, he puts on either whatever he has. So basically it means that separate mitzvahs, and yet we say when you're putting them on, there is an order that you have to put on first the Yad and then the Shalosh. So come and learn and become a fanim. We can learn this in several ways. Number one, Aleph, das is adin b'tfilin shel Rosh. That this is a halacha in the Tefillin Shel Rosh. In other words, the main player, what we're trying to satisfy, is the Shel Rosh should be properly. The Shleimus HaMitzvah from Tefillin Shel Rosh, when is the Shel Rosh complete mitzvah? Yes, you can put on the Shel Rosh by itself, you don't have Shel Yad. But which way do you do the mitzvah of Shel Rosh in the best way? Is nor b'shas if der hand is do der Shel Yad. That's only if on the hand there is the Shel Yad. V'lochein, and therefore, dafer farn legen tefillin Shel Rosh, legen tefillin Shel Yad. And that's why before he puts the tefillin Shel Rosh, he has to put the Shel Yad, because the shleimus of the mitzvah Shel Rosh is that there should be the Shel Yad on first. Okay. Base, another way to explain it is, says adin in them seder vider gavre darf legen dit tefillin. This halacha is the order how the person needs to put on tefillin. It has nothing to do. It's not because of the Shel Rosh. It's the person. How am I to perform the mitzvah? You put first the Shel Yad and then the Shel Rosh. Frier darf legen dit tefillin Shel Yad, and dernoch first he puts the tefillin Shel Yad, and dernoch and afterwards the tefillin Shel Rosh, and after he puts the tefillin Shel Rosh. This means. Das is nicht negeya to the mitzvah for Tefillin Shel Rosh. This is not connected to the Tefillin Shel Rosh, the mitzvah. It's not the Tefillin Shel Rosh, but it's rather the person. Und auch nicht to the Tefillin Shel Yad, it's also not the Tefillin Shel Yad. Nor adin in Seder HaNachos, nor the Odom HaMenichom. This is just a halacha in the order, how to place it by the person who places them. So there's a new halacha that how are we supposed to place the Tefillin. What would be the difference? One of the differences between which way we say this is what happens if you put them on together. So if it's a mitzvah in the Tefillin Shel Rosh, so as soon as you put on right away the Tefillin Shel Yad, you're done. But if it's a mitzvah that the right way to do it is Shel Yad first and the Shel Rosh, then you have to take off the Shel Rosh and put in the Shel Yad, then the Shel Rosh. Eine von den Afkemina, the pastors zwischen the zwei Fanim is one of the differences simply between the two ways. If you put them on together, according to the first way, Ados is Negeya, nor to Shleimus HaMitzvahs von Tefillin Shel Rosh. This is only connected to the wholesomeness of the mitzvah of the Tefillin Shel Rosh. Is a roich in dem Fall Mekayim the mitzvah b'shlemusa. So also in this case, in which he put them on together, I said if you this is going to be the next nafkamina. I said, does he have to take him off? No, but here also doesn't have to take him. If you put them on together, so this is still the full mitzvah. Not saying it, but then putting them on together is almost as good. It's as good because it's at the same time there is also the shalyat when he has the shal rasha. So if you put them on together, he fulfilled the mitzvah shlemusa. But according to the second way, Ados is adin is say that this is a halacha in the way the person should put them on. As frier dafür legen tefillin shel yad und dann noch tefillin shel rosh. The person needs to first do yad and then the rosh, the tefillin shel rosh. Yes, Leimar, we can say as oder seder felt demel when the legt basachas. So that would be lacking if he puts them on at the same time. The Rebbe doesn't go as far as saying that because it was missing in his order, and therefore he would need to put on the tefillin again, because, okay, so the mitzvah wasn't done properly. It's only conceptually, was the mitzvah done properly if you put them on together. If it's a mitzvah in the Shal Rosh, it's properly, because when the Shal Rosh is there, there's a Shayad there too. If it's a mitzvah in the person that he has to do first the Yad in the Rosh, then it wasn't done properly. Okay, but still, even if it wasn't done properly, according to this svara, we'll see in a minute about the third svara, okay, you wouldn't have to put it on again. We're not bringing in that much because he didn't do it properly. He has to go ahead, take it off and do it properly. But Nochan Eifen, but this would be in the third case, which is Gimel, the third case. It's Kemen Lernen, you are able to learn das Zadin mitzvahs tefillin. Not just a person, the way you should do it, but this is something the mitzvah tefillin requires, the seist. As they say that hanachosim, that the order to put the shal yad first and then the rechiva akdima v'anach shal yad, the obligation that we have to first bring the shal yad, is a tale from mitzvahs tefillin shal yad the shal rosh. This is part of the shal yad the shal rosh. Okay, sometimes you only put on one. When you are obligated in both, there is another halacha in the tefillin. What would be the difference, halacha l'maisa, between the third and the first? And the middle one, the Rebbe leaves out, because like I said, this is not so clear if it's on the Gabra. We'll see that the Rebbe will deal later on. Right now, the Rebbe is going to make a distinction between number 3, which is a mitzvah of tefillin, and that's part of the mitzvah tefillin, or it's a mitzvah in the Shal Rosh. Whether you're going to have to put on the tefillin again. And then afkimina halacha l'maisa in the right order. And then afkimina halacha l'maisa. What's the different halacha l'maisa? Yesh leimar, we can say. When einer had gelegt the tefillin Shal Rosh, einer had gelegt them Shal Yad. If one places the Shal Rosh before he places the Shal Yad, is he obligated to remove the tefillin Shal Rosh and to put them on in the order? Frier tefillin Shal Yad, to first put Shal Yad, and then noch Shal Rosh, and then the one on there. Other is genug, or we should say it's enough, as if it noch them onto the tefillin Shal Yad. Now already he put it on, so he can put on the tefillin Shal Yad later on. Can you do the machlokes aposkim achrein as it's known? Disagreement the Shulchan Aruch, the Neisach Shulchan Aruch, and the poskim achrein bazeh, whether he would have to take off the shalosh and then put on the shayad and then the shalosh. But the Rebbe connects it to the two ways. Loit and Ashton Eifen, according to the first way, as is a din in the Shleimus and Mitzvah Shalosh, that the reason you need to put on the shayad because the shalosh, it's something which the shalosh has in a wholesome way. In them was that when they're on the head, they're both there. He doesn't have to remove the shalosh. His maspik, it's sufficient. As a he'll put on immediately the shalyad. So he'll have both of them, the shalyad and the shalosh. So the shalosh won't be alone. And that brings to the wholesomeness the mitzvah shalosh that he has now, both of them. So if he did first the Shal Rosh, Besides, if you put it on together, but if you put it, I didn't put a, so we'll put on quickly the shal yad right away. And therefore we have both of them. So for a while they were not there, but now we'll have the mitzvah b'shleimus. But according to the third way, that this is part of the mitzvah tefillin. However, according to the one, this is a halacha. The mitzvah tefillin is move on. It's understood as a daf cholet zayin the tefillin shel rosh. He has to remove the tefillin shel rosh, and then he has to put them on like in order, because since he didn't do the mitzvah in a proper way, because the proper way is to do the shel yad before the shel rosh, so therefore he has to redo it in the proper way. What's about the second way? That's not so clear. We'll see two possibilities. If it's a person on the Gabra, we're not sure if it's Makah b'di'evet, and then he has to redo it, or maybe it's a Gabra on Lechatchila. So that Rebbe will deal in Ois Zayin. In Ois Vav, the Rebbe now explains that this is the difference between the Gemara and the Mechilta. And this is why the Mechilta adds on what the Gemara learns out. In the Gemara, it's like the first way, first suggestion that it's a mitzvah in the Shel Rosh. So just because of the Gemara, if he happened to put on the Shel Rosh first, he should put on the Shel Yad, that would be okay. The Mechilta adds that no, that's a mitzvah of the tefillin to put him on first, the Shel Yad and the Shel Rosh. So if you put on the Shel Rosh, he has to put in the Shel Yad first. Both. And das is der Chelek zwischen dem Limud, Kozman shebenenecha yushtayim. That we learn out in the Gemara that as long as it's between your eyes, you have the Shel Rosh, you need both. Because the Gemara learns up, which the Gemara learns. And then Limud the Mechilta, and with the Mechilta learns from the Pesukim in Parshas Boy in Kaddish. Bekan Amru mitzvah tefillin. From here they say the mitzvah tefillin is kshu noisen shel yad. When he goes, he gives the hand v'achach shel rosh. This is the mitzvah of tefillin. The limud calls masha beinenecha yushtayim meant. Then when we say that as long as between your eyes is two, means that this is a din in tefillin shel rosh. This is a halach in the shel rosh. Das was medat magdim zayin the tefillin shel yad. The fact that we need to have first the shel yad yushtayim, so that you have both is negayet to shleimus mitzvahs tefillin shel rosh. That is important to the wholesomeness of the mitzvah shel rosh beinenecha ubemeila, and therefore b'shas as higdim tefillin shel rosh tefillin shel yad, made a mistake. He did first the shel rosh shel yad. Is maspik, it's sufficient anocha for tefillin shel yad. They're noch. So then you put on the shel yad afterwards. When the mitzvah is Hashem mekanul haba mekayim. So now from here and on, he's fulfilling the mechiyuv, the obligation from kol zman shebenenecha yushtayim, for as long as between your eyes you have both. It's okay. For a minute it wasn't there, but now you're bringing it up to the proper shleimus. Loi der mechilta, but however, according to mechilta, is the limud. Here we learn as mekan omru mitzvah tefillin. This is saying here is saying what the mitzvah tefillin is. Together from mitzvah tefillin is ba'ifin the criteria and what is the defining of the mitzvah tefillin in such a way as part of mitzvah tefillin when you put the yad and then you put the rosh. As a kedama shel yad in seder anachosam, this that we have the first the shel yad in the order we place them is a din in mitzvah tefillin. That is a halacha the mitzvah tefillin. B'meile shas higdim tefillin shel rosh. If you do tefillin shel rosh, felt that din b'mitzvah tefillin, you're lacking some of the mitzvah tefillin, which was first to put the shel yad and shel rosh. Therefore, you have to remove and move it and put them on in the right order. What is according to the second way? Second way is I would say it was a chivam de gavra, that the gavra has to put it that way, not the part of mitzvah tefillin. So over there it can be said in both ways. It's according to the second way. That this is only a halacha in the order of the way the tefillin is put on through the person. is done. As soon as Mokum zu trachten, so there is room to debate. Got to think about it. See, das is not atnai prat. In Seder hanocha shel ha'odom. Is this only a condition? It's only a detail in the order of the way the person puts it on. Und das hat nicht gescheiches zu der mitzvah tefillin, but this is not really connected to the mitzvah tefillin, like we have, according to the third opinion. Und als Tanai, if it's merely a condition, as it is with most of the conditions of a mitzvah, is a sefshenit likuva. This may not be holding back. So if you put on chatchila, you should put the yad before the shalosh. If you did it otherwise, maybe you don't have to put it again. And therefore, if he did tefillin shalosh, if he did for the shalosh, is maspik as a leg noch them the shalyad, then it's sufficient that he should put after one on the one on the head. When he's the mit mekayim mitzvah tefillin kidboy, now he's fulfilling the mitzvah tefillin kidboy. Doesn't have to go ahead and put it on again. Chatchila, this is the way to do it. But once he did it, he could just put on shalyad. Other can sagen, or one can say, as the din is seder anachosum, that the order, the way we put it, that we say that the gabra has to put it in such a way, this continues also after you put on the tefillin. Once the tefillin are on you, there's a certain order, and that order is necessary even after the fact after you put on the shalosh before the shalyatse. Ados was the tefillin zayin noch the menachem b'fim. That later on the tefillin are laying on the person. In is a hemshech for anocha from tefillin shalosh on the ragdomas tefillin shayad. They are a continuation from such a placing of the shalosh, which did not have, which was minus, on it was lacking. Ragdomas tefillin shayad. And then he has to remove the shalosh. When they lay in Kisidram, he has to put them in the order. So now, Yeshloimar as the meat was the Gemara zokt. The Gemara says, Ravuna Asberali. The Ravuna explained to me, as Akdom as Chalitza Shel Rosh, learn Charuis from them vos. He says, explain to me that. Oh, Markro, Bohoyulu Toitofas Beinenecha, Kol Zman Shebeinenecha Yishtayim, that the Pasuk says, Kol Zman Shebeinenecha Yishtayim, is the Gemara Mefarish. The Gemara explains. So he's explaining what he said before, as the Erster Limud B'Nigeya, the Seder Hanocha. The first part, before we learning Asberali, the first part that you first put on the Shalyad, before we're talking about removing the tefillin. He says, explaining how the Erster the Seder Hanocha, Shonim Maniach Shalyad V'Achkach Maniach Shel Rosh. This is the first part, how you put it on. And he's saying, he explained it to me. Is not atnai in my saha nocha shel hagabra. This is only a condition in the act of the person. This doesn't have any halacha to the mitzvah itself. So he's explaining, because just like from the limud, so mitzvah tefillin is blaze negay the pratas calls much berinach yishtayim. As far as mitzvah tefillin, it's only important the detail that you have both of them on. So the first aspect of it is not a separate. The gavra has to make sure, but if he didn't do it that way, it's calls much berinach yishtayim. It's he will be able to continue right after the shalosh to put on the shalyat. So in the Gemara, essentially, from the Gemara, both from the first part and the second part, there would be no need to put on the tefillin. If he put on the shalosh first, he doesn't have to take it off, put on the shalyat. One of them come to the Sof in Sifri. So here, there's an addition in the Sifri. Which he learns from the Kshartem, Kozman shel yad b'yad, Tein shel rosh berosh. That it says ukshartem as long as there's a yad in the hand, while the shel yad is in the hand, that is when you should put the shel rosh berosh. Mikan amru kshenois in tefillin nois shel yad chila first. He gives the shel yad v'achar kach shel rosh, which means to say that no, you always have to have the shel yad before the shel rosh. Lady Gemara is not negeya. According to the Gemara, it's only important as is Menachem al Roshei that they should be on his head, both of them. Kol's man should be nenecha yushtayim. That when they're on their head, there should be two. Does haste? That means the akdama from tefillin shel yad. Why are we doing the shel yad first? Nor bichdei zal zayin shtayim kol's man should be nenecha. Only so that there should be two kol's man should be nenecha. That's the asberali. That's the second case explaining what it means. But according to Sifri, is to mitzvah tefillin shorosh negeya. So to the mitzvah tzoroiv, it's important. Not as the tefillin shorosh zayin menachim. Not only that they should be placed, ben oich the tefillin shiyad zayin menachim. That also there's tefillin shiyad there. Nor oich there's seder ba'oif. There also the order. Tein shorosh berosh, that you should give the head on the head when there is a tefillin shiyad. That's why you put first in the hand, so that you can have properly placing the rosh on the rosh. And therefore, according to the Sifri, you'll have to put on the tefillin again. And now the Rebbe is going to show there's also a difference between the Mechilta and the Sifri. So the Gemara, the second part in the Gemara, Kol Marim Shenecha, is the first option that the Rebbe chose, which is it's a din in the Shel Rosh. The first part of the Gemara is really the second option, which is a din in the Gavra. But in the Gemara, we can explain it two ways. Either it's liikuva, it's only lechatchila, it's a tanai. The Gemara chooses, the Rebbe explains asbrali, the Gemara chooses that it's only a tanai, and after the fact, it doesn't matter. The Sifri learns it's a gavra, but it does matter. Like the second part within the option, in the second option, but it's a liikuva. The Mechilta that I was going to explain now learns like the third that it's actually a mitzvah in the tefillin, and that's why liikuva, not liikuva because it's nimshach to later on, but l'chatchila it's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah. The order is the mitzvah part of the tefillin. Ches, a pikol analysis. Move on. Based on the above, all the above is also understood. Was the Mechilta learned the sarois from Ershton Pasuk the Parshas Kaddish, that he learns it from the first portion of Parshas Kaddish. It says v'hoyu l'chol oisal yotcha v'goymer. Not only does he learn it in Parshas Boy, in the first Parshas Kaddish, there's two psukim over there. There's also the pasuk Boy Kiviacha, but he learns it from the very first pasuk in Parshas Kaddish, in the portion of Kaddish, not in Boy Kiviacha, which follows. Unoichnit from pasuk Boy Lois Al Yotcha. So first in Parshas Kaddish, and not in our parsha from Voeschanan, but also in Parshas Kaddish, unoichnit from pasuk Boy Lois Al Yotcha. In Parshas Boy Kiviacha, we say Parshas Boy, the portion of Kiviacha which follows the Parshas of Kaddish, which is first at the end of the Parshas Boy. Loi der Mechilta, according to the Mechilta, the Baal does the Seder Anochas Tefillin. The Seder Anochas. The order Anoch is a din the mitzvah Tefillin. It's a loch in the mitzvah Tefillin. Niblo is a din in the Maisa Anoch from Gabra. It's not only a halacha in the act of placing it of the Gabra, or in the shleimus from the mitzvah Tefillin Shel Rosh, or a wholesomeness in the Tefillin Shel Rosh, like in the Gemara, or like in the Sifri. Was the Rebbe Loshna Mechilta Mekan Amru mitzvah tefillin? Emphasized it before the mitzvah tefillin. Shu Neisen Shel Yad Nachach Neis Rosh. He says this is the mitzvah tefillin to give the rosh and then the Shel Yad, and it doesn't say because Mekan Amru Neis Shel Yad Chila. You give the first the Shel Yad. But the chiyuv to magdim zayin the Shel Yad, because the obligation to have first the Shel Yad is need blois at tonight. It's not only a condition kidei. As the noch so sein der kozman sheben nach yushtayim. that in order to be able to have later on the Shel Rosh should be two, or they're even not denied by that the way you give it, you have to give it which is at time the Gavra. But Adin mitzvah tefillin. Part of the mitzvah tefillin is that this is the order. The Fard led us up. That's what we're going to learn it from the very first place, from the mitzvah mitzvah tefillin Samarish Tamol, where the Torah commands us about the first time to put the mitzvah tefillin, which is the Parshas Kaddish. Was from them first statement. From that we understand. As zusammen mit der erste mitzvah is gesagt worden, der din ikrei ba mitzvah. Together with the mitzvah putting on tefillin, also the main part of the mitzvah, which is to put the tefillin shel yad and then the tefillin shel rosh. Yesh lahoisif, we can add, as their mocker of them ados is mitzvah's tefillin. What is the source that this is the part of the mitzvah of tefillin to have the shel yad and then the shel rosh? Adin in their mitzvah guf, it's part of the mitzvah itself. Is nit blois mitzad them say the rakosov. It's not just because the pasuk says first the order. Nor mitzad loshen rakosov. There's actually the loshen of the pasuk. From them pasuk in this pasuk v'hoyu lechol ois al yotchol. It's a korban ben necha. That's the parsha of Kaddish. And since it doesn't say v'loy nemar v'hoyu lezikorim ben necha, says v'hoyu l'cholos yotcho, and his beferish doesn't say like by us v'hoyu l'teitofis. Over there it says v'loy nemar v'hoyu lezikorim ben necha. Learn and up in the Rishonim. So in the Rishonim we learn from this language sheshteyem nichshavim lavia v'asiya achas. They're considered one. So there's not even plural. It's not v'hoyu. V'hoyu l'chol sal yotcha. U'zikarim ben necha. It's just like one act of the shal yad and shal rosh. That's brought down from this pasuk. That's so it's understood in the Rishonim. But according to halacha, das is loider deya as me learned of the seder anochas tefillin. That we learn it out from our pasuk in Parshas Voeschanan is v'hoyu. So it's not really one, but they shall be. So we're talking about two now. We're talking shel yad and shel rosh. They're only considered to one act of putting on. Not in the inyan, only as far as that you have to make them immediately, one after the other, without any interruption. V'hoyu, they should be one after the other. But not that this is really one placing of two parts. It says, Aber loider mechilta. According to Mechilta, that learns it out from that pasuk, they're really one thing. That's why it doesn't say v'hoyu, because there's really no two things. This is the order that you do with Riyad and Rosh. This is one thing. For them is b'meila verstandig. So it's understood. Since this is one thing, is the order. Is as Bishasar at Mishana given them say that if you change the order, is does need to be because then it's not what the pasuk says. He has to put him on again according to the order. So according to the Mechilta, the Rebbe learns you have to put him on again. But also according to the Sifri, you also have to put him on again. But according to the Gemara, it's not necessarily about what the Lamaisa, we have the Machlokes and the Shonim that I never quoted earlier. Oistes, all in Yon for Nigla the Torah, all matters of the revealed part of Torah also have their expression in the inner part of Torah. Not only do they have an expression, but actually they start with the inner part of Torah. The Yonim in Nigla, the contrary, these aspects of the revealed part, they are evolved They come out from the way they are in the inner. Similar is in our matter. The entire Torah has been equated to tefillin. Is kishem v'in tefillin zayne faran, tefillin shel yad, and tefillin shel rosh. Just like in tefillin, there are two tefillins, yad and rosh. Same thing we have. Azoy zayne oichin der avodah from Torah mitzvahs. Likewise, also in the service of Torah mitzvahs, faran the tzvei bechinas from tefillin. We also have the two aspects of tefillin, shel yad of the Torah mitzvahs, was melektoy from zroya keneged alev. So yad you put on the hand, corresponding to the heart. Meist of the avodah shemalev. That points to the service of the heart. Yiras Hashem u'kabbalas Yisrael. Awe of Hashem, fear of Hashem, and accepting the oath. And then you have Shel Rosh. Shel Rosh v'sanachosei is keneged hamoyach. That's placed opposite the brain. Meist of the avodah from seichel avona v'asogah. That points to the service with the intellect, understanding and grasping. Uvidos is mudgish, as it's emphasized in the din benigla b'shulchan aruch, in the din and the nigla in the shulchan aruch, as kiyum mitzvahs tefillin, that how do we fulfill the mitzvah of tefillin is lahanicham al azroya keneged alev al rosh keneged hamoyach. One needs to place them on the heart, on the hand by the heart, on the head by the mind. Kidei shenisker nisim v'niflois. Quoting the Alter Rebbe's Loshen, that we should remember the miracles, the wonders, that He did with us. Sheheim moidim al yichudei. They point to Hashem's unity, that they are that Hashem has the power and the dominance. And He should enslave to Hashem the soul is the moyach. Also desire the thought of the heart to Hashem's service. By the anochas tefillin, through the anochas tefillin yisker, he will remember as aboyre is barach v'yamet hanoisuf. He'll remember Hashem and he will diminish his taivas, his desires. This is from Rabbi Shulchan Aruch in Sif Yud Aleph from the Shulchan Aruch. Generally, these are the two aspects: hergesh, feeling, which is midas shebelev, it's the emotions in the heart, and mitzvahs, which is the mitzvahs tefillin shel yad, the hand tefillin, and Torah, which is tefillin shel rosh, that's the intellect, the Torah of the head. Yud. Now here we have two instructions, two lessons. First is the way you put on the tefillin. First you put on the yad and then you put it on the ksiv. It says in the pasuk, "Kuluk shartum l'saydah," or the other pasuk. But as yiras chetei darzayin koydem es l'chochmosei. Fear of sin needs to come before wisdom. You have to accept and have the yad before the mayach. Yira is tara l'chochma. Yira becomes a gate for chochma. You go through yira. This is mavur baruch in Tanya, as explained at length in Tanya. As Reish is ha'avoida v'ikra v'shorsha. What is the beginning of the service, the main and the root, is to arouse first the natural love, natural fear, which is hidden in the heart of every Yid. Not to rebel against Hashem. This is in Perik Memalef in Tanya, as the Alter Rebbe says of there. So we need first the yad, we need the emotion, you need the ava hativis, the yira hativis, the emotional parts, which is in the heart. Then comes the second, higher hira. As long as benenecha, you still need both of them. As the avodah for yira fodert, sich nit nor als hagdome, it is not only a requirement as an introduction to limud Torah before learning Torah, that oich b'shas und zusammen mit Torah at the time and together when he's studying Torah, avodah shebeseichel, avona v'asogel v'kus, when you're doing your intellect, understanding godliness, that oich zayin the avodah for yira also needs to be the avodah of awe, Then your wisdom will be sustained even after you started. Still got to keep the level of yira to sustain your avodah shebesech. Then you get a higher level in yira. Greater than the one that comes in introduction. That's the im ein yira in chochma. Then you have in chochma yira, you have the higher level. So welchem kommt zu der Torah. Und welches wird gesagt, about that we say im ein chochma and yira. You need Torah for yira. So you need the yira before Torah, that's the low, but then from chochma you come to yira. The pasuk says by Tzavenu Hashem lasis, Hashem instructed to do as kol hachukim ha'ela. The reason for all this chukim is liyira, to fear Hashem. But this is the darga for yirei law. This is the superior, the higher level of yira. Because nimshach davke noch der avodah v'chochma. That comes specifically after the service of chochma. Kevavur baruch and chassidus is explained the lesson of chassidus. Yudalef. Them is men moisiv. And here, for this we're adding, as those was anochas tefillin shel yad, dav zayin for anochas tefillin shel rosh, that we need to have the shel yad before shel rosh, which means yirosik adamas l'chochma, the fear before chochma, is nit norval azoy dav zayin der seder anogas odom. That's not just because that's the order that a person needs to conduct himself. As kidei tzutzukom and tushleimus from tefillin shel rosh, in order to reach to the completion, the whole tefillin shel rosh chochma from Torah, you need to have the Akdama for Yirah Kabbalah Soil. You need to have the introduction of the fear, awe, and the Kabbalah Soil. So that's an order because the person wants his wisdom to be sustained, so you need to come on it. They have to involve them. It comes to a higher, also elevation. But that's not only because of that needs to be the Seder, that's the way to reach it, and through this you'll get the higher Shleimus, you'll get the higher level Yireh Law, and even his emotion will be elevated because that Yireh will reach a higher level. But rather, as the Rebbe was Machadish in the Sifri, nor the Seder Guf is an inyan for Mitzvah Tefillin. This becomes the Mitzvah Tefillin. This haste. Those was Melek Frier Tefillin Shel Yad. The reason we put first Shel Yad is while Oich Dos is an Iker. That is also main, that's important. So he's doing them a Maila, and there is an advantage. The Baal das Kabbalah Shel Yira, Filo Yira Tator, is in Yonah Bittel since accepting the Yog Yira. Even the low level Yira is subjugation, Hepech HaYesh is the opposite of one feeling oneself. What's the Hashayches zum Bittel Atzmi? That means that it's connected. Even the lowest level of bittul is connected to the essence of the soul, which is the level of Yechidus, the highest part of the nefesh. Was his hecher from the Rabbi from Tefillin Shel Rosh, which is higher than the service of the head. As the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov, about the tefillin, the way Hashem puts the tefillin, Hashem Yisrael, puts the tefillin, frier tefillin shel yad, noch dem tefillin shel rosh. First he puts on the hand and then the shrosh. In tefillin shel mailo, how does he explain it? In the tefillin above is the shel yad merames of the avodah for noshim pshutim. The shel yad represents the service of simple people. The Shel Rosh, that's the Eibish's tefillin. Shel Rosh, the avodah from Bali Torah. That's the avodah of the masters of Torah. The Nachas tefillin Shel Maila. So the way the Eibish puts on is the avodah b'Kabbalah Sil for Noshim Pshutim Frier. The service of accepting the yoke from the simple people, that comes first. The Eibish puts on first the Shel Yad, the simple people. Hecher from the avodah from the Bala Moichin in Diva Sogas HaTorah. This is higher than the service of the intellectuals and those who know and grasp Torah. When I day zeh, and through all this, it's accomplished the mitzvah tefillin in its wholesomeness. As it becomes one Mamish one, the Shayad and Shalosh, this is not separate. To them, this is the mitzvah. The mitzvah is Shayad and Shalosh. To them, was in der Madrege von Tfilin Shayad, herzig der Inyan von Achas. Through this, that in the Tfilin Shayad, you can sense the idea of one, Chines Yechida, Poildos am Achas, Oichem Tfilin Shalosh. This impacts the Achas also on the Tfilin of the head. In the Avodah from the Balei Moichin, but also in the service of the intellectual, in the knowledge and grasping of Torah. Durch der Avodah von Achas, through this service of Achas, is Mamamshich in Welt Echad. Then we bring down in the world Echad. Kemaimer, Tfilin, the Alma Marksibu. What does it say in the Hebrew Tfilin? Mikam Chesrog Echad Ba'aretz. That who is like your people who are a nation that bring down Echad Ba'aretz? Eden seine Mamshich, the Mavaye Echad Ba'aretz. Eden are Mamshich, the Mavaye Echad Ba'aretz. This Achas, this Yechida, this Tfilin Sheyad Shalosh, the Achas, level which is higher than the intellect, level of bittul, the level of, that brings down the Mikam Chesrog Echad Ba'aretz. Sichas, Yud Shvat, Tov Shin, Lamed Zayin.